Assalamu alaikum, Shoaib.
Walaikum salam, my brother. Your name and where you're calling from?
My name is Billy. I'm calling from Texas. How are you?
Billy from Texas. I'm doing well, thanks to God.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that, brother. I was just calling in with a question regarding, regarding Salah, I guess. But I first wanted to make sure that we're on the same page. Do you agree that if Allah makes a claim, the claim has to be true? Because Allah is the truth and He establishes the truth with His words.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, good. We're on the same page. So my question was, if Allah says in Surah 29, verse 45, He says, recite what has been revealed to you of the book and establish Salah. Indeed, Salah prevents immorality and wrongdoing, and the remembrance of Allah is greater, and Allah knows that which you do. And so my question is, Allah claims here that Salah prevents immorality and wrongdoing. So that has to be true necessarily because Allah is claiming that. Allah can't be wrong about that claim.
Yes.
So if Allah is telling the truth when He tells us that Salah prevents immorality and wrongdoing, how can Salah be a ritual prayer, considering that people can perform a ritual prayer and still do something wrong afterwards? For example, I've seen your YouTube tutorial showing how to do Salah according to the Quran alone, but I could perform that ritual right now and then still go and do something wrong or immoral or indecent. So if this verse is telling us that Allah tells us Salah prevents wrongdoing and immorality, how can Salah be ritual prayer when ritual prayer doesn't share that property? It doesn't prevent wrongdoing or immorality.
Thank you. So then it means that whoever is doing that doesn't understand the notion of the salat God is describing. Because according to Quran 107 verse 4, it tells you people do salat and they are heedless of their salat. According to Quran chapter 4 verse 142, it tells you even hypocrites get up to do salat. According to Quran chapter 8 verse 35, it tells you we have disbelievers even doing salat by whistling and clapping because they are all not doing the way God wants them to do. So now the question arises, what is the purpose of the salat? The purpose of the salat is for the remembrance of God. Where do we get the remembrance of God? From the book of God. So you will see the things that God prohibits. So now let's go. Quran chapter 16 verse 90. Because when you recite from the book of God or you read from the book of God, that you use the book to establish the salat, right? Now, when you take Quran chapter 16 verse 90, it says, indeed, God commands or calls for justice, goodness, giving to the relative, and forbids or restricts or prevents obscenity, abomination, and oppression. Now, it's God who actually uses that word. God, the word in Arabic is yanha anil fashahi, and that is the same word used for the salat. This same action God is doing, it is the same action the salat does. Remember, we do the salat for the remembrance of God. So, remembrance of God, since you are going to remember the remembrance of God, you take the book of God. From the remembrance of God, He's actually giving you instructions on things you have to refrain from and things you have to do. That is the purpose of salat, because we are using the remembrance of God out of the salat. So when we say salat refrains or restrains or prevents from obscenity and immorality, it doesn't mean at once I go to the salat then it prevents me. No, it is from my daily routine of going through the salat, I'm taking up the verses of God, what He is telling me, to act upon it. So that is how it will prevent me. Because if that is not the case, how come a hypocrite even establish salat? Quran chapter 4 verse 142. How come even somebody who is heedless of the salat also establish the salat, but they are heedless? Quran chapter 107. And you read up to verse 4. You understand? How come chapter 8 verse 35, even disbelievers establish salat, but do they do it the way God wants them to do? The answer is no. So that is why you don't see the response from preventing, but it will benefit believers. Remember, God says the salat is for the believers. Salat was not meant for everybody to do. It's for believers, actually.
I see. If you don't mind me asking, would you mind, I got 16 verse 90, and was it Surah 107 verses 3 and 4?
Chapter 16 verse 90, yes.
And then I believe you mentioned, was it Surah 107 verses 3 and 4?
So Surah 107, let me confirm for you, verse 4 and 5. It's
4 and 5, no problem.
Not
No
3 and 5. 4 and 5. And then I mentioned concerning the hypocrites also establishing salat. They get up lazily to do the salat. Hypocrites also do salat.
Yes. Which verse was that?
Chapter 4 verse 142.
Chapter 4 verse 142.
Yes, thank you. And also disbelievers also do salat. Disbelievers also do salat. Chapter 8 verse 35.
8 verse 35. Okay.
The essential part is knowing the core of what you're doing. That is what will, because you are taking the remembrance from the message of God. That is what is going to refrain you from doing the bad things you're doing. You understand?
Okay.
That
So
is
if it's the remembrance of Allah that is going to prevent us doing wrongdoing, then what is the point in the standing, the bowing, and the prostrating?
because you need a time whereby you have to get in line with the message of God. For instance, we are busy with a lot of activities. So if God doesn't give you that time where you have to now seclude yourself for that special activity, you will get carried away. You might not have time to even talk to God anymore. Quran chapter 2, verse 152. God says, "So remember me and I will remember you.
Yes.
And be
Right.
thankful to me and do not be ungrateful to me." Now, this is very, very important, this verse. So in order to remember God, I need to have a fixed time where I go to do the remembrance of God. And I go back to my other activities. Because remember, God knows we will marry, we will have kids, we will go to games, we will watch sports, we will watch entertainment, we play video games. You understand? We go to the playground. He knows you do all these activities. So out of that, he gave you the time for appointment where you can have special timing with God so that you'll be satisfied. That's all.
Okay, I see. I see. I understand. I mean, honestly, I've not heard that argument before. I'll have to take a look at those verses. I'm an honest person. I do my best to study, and so I'll
Yeah,
absolutely
you
do
can
that.
do that. And this is one of the reasons why I ask for dialogue. When people don't agree, I just ask people, come and let's talk about it. Because sometimes if you are just looking at something at just one perspective, you might not see it all. And
Right.
besides, when I speak about things, I've already looked at the other possibilities and perspectives before I draw
Yeah.
conclusions. I don't just draw conclusions when people think, oh, they watch my video. The reason why I took down the old video because it's very old and it's blurry. It's not, the context is not there fully for people to grasp. That's why I took it down.
Okay, that makes sense. I look forward to it. If you don't mind me asking, Shweb, I know that I've taken a look at your translation of the Quran before, the Great Quran.
Yeah.
In Surah 3, verse 39, it mentions. This is something I've had a question about for a long time, actually. It mentions Zachariah praying, and some translations say that he's praying in the sanctuary. Others say that he's praying in the prayer chamber. But it says that he's standing praying. In that verse, 339, is Zachariah doing salah?
Qa'iman yusalli. Yes, he's doing salah because he was actually in the action doing it.
Okay, I see. I see. Because I see that in Surah 33, verse 43, it
Yes.
mentions Allah doing Yusali. It says Yusali alaykum. And so my question there is Allah can't be praying, right?
Yeah, the root word is different actually.
Okay, so it's not from the same root of Sad, Lam, Waw?
No, it is actually for wa sa lam.
Okay, I see. I see.
Yes, when you flip it vice versa, it looks similar when you are inflecting it. They look similar,
Okay.
but they're not the same. I did a video on it. I think I did a video. I was wearing the checkers shirt and a cap.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense for sure. And I'll have to take a look at the verses that mention the hypocrites doing salah, because
Yeah, you write it down and check. You can check it for yourself. And
I see
the
what you're
reason
saying.
why I have the access to all these informations, I've done a fully translated version of Quran, the translation. So
Right.
I kind of the reason why I want people to interact and discuss and ask questions so that we get to expound or explore the Quran from all angles.
Right.
Are you getting me? I'm not saying I know it all, but I know enough to be able to make a contribution.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yes.
I know that there was a lot of debate recently about the point of saying "A'udhu billah imana shaitani regime" prior to Salah, right? With I believe it was Surah 16, verse 98. I might be a little off,
Yes.
but my question was going to be in that verse. I understand from the previous Salah video that you uploaded. I understand that the way you understand it seems to be that you should say "A'udhu billahi minash shaitani regime" before reciting the Quran. What I wanted to ask is, I don't see anywhere in that verse where Allah tells us to say it. It does say to seek refuge with Allah from the accursed shaitan, but I don't see anywhere where Allah tells us to say that we seek refuge with Allah from the accursed shaitan. It just tells us to seek refuge. The way that I understand this is that if Allah's telling us to seek refuge with him from the accursed shaitan, it logically follows that we ask how do we seek refuge. To me, the verse seems to answer that for itself. It says here, there is no authority over those who have believed and rely upon their Lord, his authority is only over those who take him as an ally and those who associate others with Allah. So as long as you don't do that, right? As long as you believe in Allah, rely upon Allah, and you don't take shaitan as an ally or associate others with Allah, then you're safe from shaitan. You have refuge. So I wanted to ask, why do you believe that you have to say, I seek refuge with Allah from the accursed shaitan, when the verse doesn't tell you to say?
First of all, that instruction was addressed to the prophet, number one. It has nothing to do with us. It's in the second person pronoun sentence being asked. So the prophet was asked to do, and remember, God will not say anything without clarifying it.
Right.
Whatever he says, he gives the clarity. When you go to Quran chapter 23, verse 97, then he tells the prophet, say, Lord, I seek protection with you against the temptations of the devils. And I seek protection with you, Lord, lest they attend to me.
I see. Yes. Okay, I see.
It's just simple logic. I don't know why people don't grasp this. Quran, you don't isolate just 2-3 verses and read and think that's the context. Quran deals with getting the further explanation in other chapters. That's how it works.
And so this is 2397.
Yes, 2397 to 98 is connected, 2 verses.
I see. So it says, repel evil with what is best. We know best what they describe. And say, oh my Lord, I seek refuge with you from the suggestions of the evil one. But see, even there, even here, they're told to say that they seek refuge in Allah from the suggestions of the evil ones, right?
Yeah,
so that's...
Yes,
even
the devil. Yes.
Yeah, well,
finish your statement. Yeah.
Yeah. The point here is that this statement varies, right? So this isn't A'udhu billah minash shaitani regime. This is A'udhu
Finish the verse before you draw
bika
conclusion.
min hamazati shayim.
Yeah, there's a next verse. Finish it. It says,
okay, and then it says, and I seek refuge in you, O my Lord, from their presence.
The proper word used, and yadurun means to come closer to you, to attend to you.
Okay.
So it is not only from their temptations you are seeking refuge. It is also they are coming physically attending to you.
I see. Okay.
Yes. So it gives you both context. So it's not like I'm only saying A'udhu billahi minash shaitan, because when you are reading the Quran, let me tell you the dangers of people telling you not to say A'udhu billahi minash shaitan. You see, Quran is a book of wisdom, and it's a book which contains heavy word. When we say heavy word, it's a book which needs intellect to break down. So the moment you go into the book of guidance, that is when the devil comes in, because he wants to tamper with your head. And that is why you see people playing with the words of God, twisting words, making their assumption, bringing in their own interpolations. Because the devil is not only there to attend to you physically, it disturbs your brain also.
Right.
Yes. It's not only one way, it's both. So in a summary, chapter 16 verse 98, when you call on God by saying A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, you have fulfilled the objective of driving the devil away from you. The reason is Quran chapter 7 verse 16. Look at the promise the devil made. He, the devil, said, because of what you have trapped me, I will sit for them on your straight path. Listen what he said. I will sit for them on your straight path. Please, Brother Bill, where do I get the straight path of God?
The straight path of God?
Yeah, where do I get it?
From the Quran.
Thank you. So now he said, I will sit for them on your straight path.
Right.
Then he said, I will come to them from their front, from their behind, from their right, from their left, and you will not find most of them grateful.
Right.
We are not dealing only with a physical entity. We are dealing with a spiritual entity at the same time.
Yeah, that's correct.
So when he said, I will sit on the straight path can be only achieved in the Quran. So when you carry the Quran, he has to disturb your brain. He has to come to you from all angles to make you play with the words of God. And people think it's a joke when we are saying, seek refuge before you enter into the Quran. It is not a joke.
Right.
Yes,
right.
yes. When you seek refuge, you are driving the devil away, both physically and spiritually, away from your conscience when you are trying to understand something. Understand?
Yeah.
So that is the logic behind it. This is nothing external. I'm not taking this from any hadith book or anything. This is purely inspired from the Quran.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. That makes sense. With what you said earlier, you got my gears turning, because I haven't thought about the verse that mentions hypocrites doing salah before.
Yeah.
So that brings a question to mind. So the way that you understand salah, do you believe that there is a correct way to do it and an incorrect way to do it, and that it only prevents wrongdoing and indecency if you do it the correct way?
Thank you. Yes. The wrong way has been done by the disbelievers, and I showed you in the Quran chapter 8 verse 35. The other wrong way has been done by the hypocrites. They get up to do it lazily. Doing it lazily is not a good thing. Then again, chapter 107 verse 4 to verse 5, you have to pay attention to the salat. It is not a salat you go as we see the Sunnis do. They are just in the salah. They don't know what they are doing, thinking about football, thinking about what food to eat later, thinking about what movie to watch later. You understand? They don't even know what they're doing. They're not paying attention. They are heedless.
Right.
You have to know what you're doing.
Right. So I guess that in that sense, I know some people understand salah to mean, I've seen it translated many ways. Sam Gerrans translates it as keeping our duties to Allah. Some people understand it as following Allah closely. Others understand it as having a communication or a reaching out to Allah. I've seen it translated many different ways. So what this makes me think is when it talks about, say, for example, someone praying and then being heedless of their prayers, that means you can perform the ritual and still do wrong things, right? So that would mean that salah, if salah does prevent wrongdoing and indecency, salah must be more than just a ritual. It has to also include following Allah after that ritual is performed.
Yes, because when you recite the verses of God, you're following the verse. So the instruction comes in chapter 6, verse 155. God says this is a blessed book that he has revealed. So follow it so that you may attain mercy. So when you are using the book during your salah, it's not only about reading or reciting it. It's about you are going to follow what is being said. But it doesn't mean if you're following an instruction, when you are told the instruction, that means you're following it straightforward whilst you're standing. So this is why when you read Quran chapter 62, verse 9 to verse 11, you will see that even the Prophet was standing for the Salat. He invited the believers to join him. Some left him and went for their entertainment and their business.
I see.
They left him standing. So if it is a duty you are doing between you and God, why the standing? And why they have to leave him? What does their leaving him got to do with anything? And God also said, do not come to the salat whilst you are intoxicated, so that you know what you are saying. So it is a salat that we have to do something about saying something. Then God also tells you what to recite during salat. Quran chapter 17, verse 111. And it is about praising God, and it's included in the Quran. So in all this, when you gather it together, because the idea of the Quran, you don't just get the conclusion of a topic in one chapter. You get chunk here, and you go and chunk here, because the idea of the Quran is God wants you to study the book in its entirety. It is not just taking one part only. So this is what people don't usually understand. And let's go back to the word, the meaning of the word. Whenever you are trying to come to a conclusion to what a word means, first of all, you trace the etymology of the word. I can tell you for a fact, the etymology of the word salah doesn't give you the meaning duty. No historical fact to that. Doesn't mean duty. No historical fact where salat means following closely. Those using following closely, it came from a poem. And the Quran, God says several times, the Quran itself is not a poem. So why will you take a meaning that the poem gives you to insert in the meaning of the Quran?
I see.
And again, salat doesn't mean connection. What means connection is wasala, which is the opposite word, which looks like the word salat, which I told you it is wasala. That is a root word. Salah, the root word is salawa. That is salah. Now, throughout the history of this word, it has been meant to mean pray, liturgy, litany, worship, to even burn something. It means salah, right?
I have seen that before.
Yes, to roast something. Chapter 69, verse 30 to 31. Yes, to roast something is also salah. Now, when we say a root word is coming from a seed which germinates, comes a branch, and sprouts.
Yeah.
The root word, no matter how the meaning evolves, they have to be similar and connected in one way or the other.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense because they share roots, right?
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. I can understand that for sure. So with Usali, for example,
Yes.
why I understand the way I see it, and maybe there was something I just didn't catch earlier. So I see Usali is mentioned in 339 and is also mentioned in 33:43. And in 339, Zechariah is doing Usali and it's translated as praying. In 33:43, Allah is the one doing Usali. It says Usali alaikum, and it says that he's sending blessings upon them, right?
That root word is different from the one Zechariah is doing.
Interesting.
Yes.
I because the word that I've seen, like if I go to an Arabic grammar website, for example, like a Quran corpus, for example, it looks like both words are usali. Both words are even labeled actually in the same grammatical context. So that particular word in both of those verses, usali, bear with me just one moment. It is in, there it is. In both times, it's mentioned in the first person masculine singular imperfect verb form in both of those. So you're saying that they're from a different root, but to my understanding, the word is yusali in both verses. So would the root not be the same in both of them?
What if I tell you they are wrong?
Well, I mean, I'm willing to listen to you. You know, I'll hear you out.
Thank you. Because that site is made by the Hadith followers.
I see. Well,
Yes. The Quran corpus you are using, the Sunnah.com, the Hadith owners, they own that website.
is the word in the Quran different to what I'm seeing here on the screen then? When it says Yusali,
Thank you.
is it different letters?
Let me break down for you.
Sure.
In the Arabic, the root word is Salawa. Salawa. That is a salat, sorry. Salawa, that's the root word of the word salah.
Yes.
Then the other word is wasala. This is wasala. That's the root word. Now, when I drop in Arabic, you can drop the vowel when you're conjugating. When you're doing tasrif, there's something they call tasrif conjugation. I can drop this vowel to inflect this swad and the lam only. But do you see the root word? It's wasala. Whilst the previous one is the root word of salat. That this wow was at the end here. So now, you see, if I drop this wow to inflect this sword and lamb, does it not look similar? Does it not look almost the same with the previous word?
Yeah, it does look very similar.
Yes, because in Arabic, according to Arab, the rules is if I'm inflecting this word, I can drop this vowel and then use only these two letters.
Yeah, that makes sense. I can see that it's not in this case. It's wal sad lam.
Yes, this one is the act of connection, out of reaching out. This is the one God was doing in chapter 33 verse 43 and chapter 33 verse 56.
I see.
Yes.
How is this different to chapter 3 verse 39 though? I believe that in chapter 3 verse 39, is that not the exact same word?
No, that is why context will reveal, the subject matter and context will reveal itself. So now let's use the understanding. The literal meaning of this wasala is to connect or to reach out. That's the literal meaning.
Yeah.
Okay, the literal meaning of the word salawah is to pray. That's the basic meaning.
Yeah.
Okay, so now what Zechariah was doing, he made a supplication. When you start from 38, he made a supplication first.
So in 3:38, you're saying Zechariah was supplicating first and then goes on to do the Yusali.
Yes.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, 338. He was supplicating.
Wherein invoked Zechariah his Lord, he said, "My Lord, grant for me from yourself an offspring that's pure." Okay, yeah, I can see. So yeah, he's making a supplication in 38, and then in 39 is when it becomes Yusali. In 38, the word dua is mentioned.
Thank you. Quran chapter 17, verse 110. The word dua moves together with the word salat.
17 verse 110. Say, invoke Allah or invoke the most gracious by whatever name you invoke to him. The most beautiful names, and do not be loud in your prayers, is how it's translated, which is, it looks like bi salatika.
Yeah.
And not be silent therein, but seek between that a way. So where's the word dua here?
They invoke. It's used as a verb.
Okay, yeah, I see. Right at the very start of the verse.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay, I see that.
Because in your salat, you are going to invoke. That's exactly what Zechariah did. He invoked God.
I see. Okay, which is so. In the way that you understand it, Shweb, how do the two differ? Is it the case that dua is supplication and salah is prayer?
No. The salah is a package which has dua inside. So when we say salah, it's not only you are just praying to God, talking to God only. No. It's a combination of a lot of things. So when you check my translation, you see the proper word I use is litany. When you trace the etymology of the word in the classical Arabic, it has been used as a litany coming from aforetime, and liturgy, because litany is a combination of a lot of things. You do the recital, out of it you do the obeisance, and it's not only about one person. It can be done with a congregation.
Right.
Salat is not something that a one person only can do always. You can also do with a congregation. And Prophet, the evidence is there in Quran chapter 4 verse 102. Prophet did the salah in the congregation.
Right.
When you understand the broader concept of it, that is what makes it a litany. Because in the litany, apart from the recitals you are going to do obeisance, you are going to do thanksgiving, you are going to do invocation, glorification, a lot of things. It's a package.
I see. And the word litany also means often to repeat something. It's something that's repeated a lot of times.
You do, because the salat is not only one instance. You do it in the morning, you do it in the evening. and you do it in the night. So it's not one instance. So you can repeat. It doesn't mean now what people don't understand is, Bill, let me give you a simple analysis here.
Sure.
When I knock on your door and I know you are inside and you don't respond, do I stop knocking?
You might try one more time, right?
And I had to try again.
You get it?
Right.
People will think, why are you repeating the same to God? No, you are not repeating it. It's for your own benefit. When we recite the book, we are reciting to ourselves. It is me reminding myself because I might not have the time to read the Quran again. So the best time is to the appointment that I have with God. I'm reading the message that He sent to me in my own voice. But when I finish, then I glorify Him. I thank Him. I praise Him. That's it. That's what Salah is. So now, when I'm supplicating to God, and I say, let's use Zechariah as an example. When you check the supplication Zechariah did, what was he asking God for?
He was asking for a child that's pure.
Yeah. So he was making a supplication in his salat. Okay.
I see.
So after if this prayer is answered and he has a child, do you think he will still be saying, God, give me a child?
No, of course. If he already has the child, he won't keep asking, right?
Thank you. So you move on to a next agenda. It's either you're thanking God or you have something else now to ask.
I see.
What people don't understand is when we recite Fatiha in the Salat and we say guide us to the straight path, people think when you have the Quran you are guided. No, you can have 1,000 copies of the Quran in your house but you're not guided. So when you say God guide us to the straight path, means guidance that God has to give you is a constant thing till you die. You can be guided for 50 years and be misguided for 2 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when we recite the first chapter and we tell God, guide us to the straight path, it's a constant thing. Somebody will say, oh, God has already answered. How did you know He answered?
How do we know that God already answered?
Yes.
I would say because Allah has said that He sent us a book of guidance. Surah 2, verse 185.
No, we didn't tell God to give us guidance. We say guide us.
Oh, okay.
If I say give me a driver, it's different from saying drive me.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Thank
that
you.
makes sense.
To understand the word carefully, choice of words that God used is very relevant to understanding the Quran. So we tell God, guide us to the straight path.
Yes.
So He can still give you guidance, but you are still not guided because He still has to guide you to the guidance itself.
I see. So it's I guess from your perspective, it's different from Allah just sending us a book of guidance and us following it.
Thank you. It's just like giving a driver a navigator and teaching him how to use the navigator.
Yeah. Well, one thing I was going to say is I appreciate the dialogue. It definitely helps me understand your position in a much clearer way. I think sometimes when I watch a stream, there's a lot of, especially because of viewers sometimes, there's a lot of bouncing from one topic to another. And so sometimes I've struggled to understand what your position is. So this helps clarify things a lot.
Yeah. Actually, people who know me, who watch me regularly, they know what I stand upon. When somebody is caught in the traffic, they don't understand what is going on. So sometimes they just pick a side without understanding what's going on. And this is why when you watch my videos, I throw challenge. I said whoever thinks I'm lying or I'm misleading people, it just takes a dialogue. Simple to bring clarity to the people.
Right.
And I found out that a lot of people, when I call for dialogue, they're scared for it. I'm serious.
Yeah.
They're very scared. And because they know that is when you have to articulate and express yourself.
Yeah, I understand. I think sometimes people are worried of asserting their position in case they get proven wrong. Whereas, for me, my position's always that I'm happy to throw my position out there, and if someone can prove me wrong, then that's okay. I'll learn something.
That's it. When I speak about things, then I found people who are uncomfortable with what the things I say. Then they start nitpicking and throwing shades at me. That's where I don't understand. It just take a phone call away, a request for a dialogue away to just bring clarity. That's all. But then when I ask for the dialogue, then the same people who are throwing shades at me will stay away. They say no, they're not coming.
No, I understand. I myself actually, I didn't want to take up too much of your time tonight. It's 9:07 here in Texas, so I've actually got to hop myself. I've got work in the morning as well, but I appreciate your time, brother, and I'm glad to see and hear that you're well. I appreciate you sharing the verses that you did with me. I've wrote down, Surah 107 verses 4 and 5, Surah 8 verse 35, Surah 16 verse 90, Surah 4 verse 142, and this gives me some stuff to go back and study. So I appreciate it, man.
Do research on it. It's a nice time talking to you. Thank you. I appreciate your presence. Thank you.
You too, brother. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Peace.